Speaker Bosma, President Pro Tem Long, Lieutenant Governor Ellspermann, Senator Lannon, Representative Pelack, Senator Coates, members of the Indiana General Assembly, distinguished guests, my fellow Hoosiers. 200 years ago this summer, 43 founders gathered beneath an elm tree in Corridor to craft a constitution for a new state they would call Indiana. Over the past 2 centuries, our state has seen remarkable growth. A population of 60,000 is more than 6.5 million today. An agrarian economy bound to the great Ohio River has become a global engine of commerce, ingenuity, education, and culture. On the foundation poured beneath that historic elm, we can say today, Indiana is not just 200 years old. Indiana is 200 years strong. In the past 3 years, we've added 139,000 new jobs to our economy. We've reduced the unemployment rate from over 8% to 4.4% today. 34,000 fewer Hoosiers are receiving unemployment today, and Indiana consistently ranks in the top 10 best states to do business in this country. Last year, we saw global businesses like General Motors, Subaru, Rolls-Royce, and Raytheon invest billions of dollars in our economy. And most significantly, I think every Hoosier and every Hoosier business, large and small, should be proud that we set a new record for private sector employment. Here in our bicentennial year, there are more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of the state of Indiana. That's 200 years Indiana strong. And the celebration of the bicentennial has already gotten started. Plans are underway for a new state archive. The Bicentennial Nature Trust has already preserved thousands of acres of wilderness. And our Bicentennial Commission is making sure that we literally run our celebration through every county of the state of Indiana. Now, I want to say I am truly grateful to all of those who've worked on our commission to make it possible for us to celebrate our 200th birthday. But I'm especially partial to its ambassador. So would you join me in welcoming the ambassador to the Bicentennial Commission and the First Lady of the state of Indiana back to this historic chamber, my wife, Karen Pence. You know, our strength is nowhere more evident than in the men and women who put on the uniform to defend our families at home and abroad, our public safety community, and the Indiana National Guard. I have no higher honor than serving as Commander-in-Chief of the finest National Guard in the United States of America. Terrorist attack on a recruiting station in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm especially proud that Indiana was one of the first states to allow our National Guard to carry firearms at all of our recruiting stations. Now those who defend our freedom have the ability to defend themselves. Now, Hoosiers know that firearms in the hands of law-abiding citizens, including our National Guard, makes our communities more safe, not less safe. And Indiana will always stand by the right to keep and bear arms. So, Mr. President, please stop blaming our gun laws for violence in Chicago. Hoosiers are not the cause of crime in your hometown. Criminals are. This year, Hoosiers will be proud to know that the 122nd Fighter Wing of the Indiana Air National Guard took the fight to the enemy. They left their families and their homes, and they deployed in the Middle East. In April 2015, over 300 black snakes returned from a historic deployment. They flew nearly 1,300 sorties, severely destroying and degrading enemy capabilities. I couldn't be more honored today to be joined by two of those Hoosier heroes. The commander of the 122nd Fighter Wing, Colonel Pat Renwick, and Captain Sarah Jones. Thank you for a job well done defending our freedom. Now, 2015 really was a year of progress on many fronts. Last week, a fourth grader at Forest Glen Elementary named Samantha asked me a question. She said, "Governor, do you use math in your job?" I told her, I use math every day, and Indiana is really good at math. Last year, we passed another balanced budget. We moved forward a balanced budget amendment. We've maintained a strong budget reserves and a AAA bond rating. With all of that said, we cut taxes for the third year in a row, and we reduced unemployment taxes on job creators this year by more than $300 million. And in 2015, Indiana made genuine progress in student achievement. We raised our standards and saw graduation rates go up to the 7th highest in the nation. And listen to this. Indiana kids outperformed the national average in every major category of the nation's report card this year. We all ought to be proud of our teachers and our kids for leading the way. And we supported our goal of improving and bettering our schools by putting education first in this last year's budget. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of you, members of the best state legislature in America. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Hoosiers deserve to know that this General Assembly passed the largest increase in K-12 education funding in the history of the state of Indiana. With $50 million in new funding, Indiana has become the first state in America to make career and vocational education a priority in every high school again. We increased bonuses for hardworking teachers. We launched the first ever pre-K program, opening doors of opportunity for disadvantaged kids in 5 Indiana counties. We have one of the largest school voucher programs in the nation, and perhaps most importantly, in a bipartisan way, this General Assembly made millions of dollars available to make sure our kids are safe when they go to school, and our teachers and faculty and kids can come home safe at the end of the day. And I thank you. And 2015 was a great year for progress on the crossroads of America. Last year, we invested more than $1 billion in nearly 400 transportation projects. We finished I-69 from Evansville to Bloomington. We improved US 31 to South Bend. And the new Ohio River Bridges projects will support growth in southern Indiana for generations. And in 2015, Indiana made great strides to improve the health of Hoosiers. We became the first state in America to reform traditional Medicaid for all able-bodied adults with the launch of the Healthy Indiana Plan 2.0. Unlike the mandates and taxes of Obamacare, HIP 2.0 is based on personal responsibility. And today, in just one short year, more than 350,000 low-income Hoosiers have access to health insurance they can pay for, and it's changing lives. Like Joanne McQueen of Newcastle. You know, for years, Joanne told us that she was without health insurance. She went without receiving routine checkups. Just couldn't afford it. One day, a friend mentioned HIP 2.0, said it was affordable, said it had good benefits, good coverage. And during a routine checkup, Joanne had a mammogram. They discovered a lump in her breast, and it was cancer. Well, she had surgery, and recently she finished her second round of
chemo. She's battling every day, but she and her husband Dale are optimistic. Joanne wanted you all to know what HIP 2.0 meant to her family. Thanks, Joanne. You and Dale and your family are in our prayers. Now, while we have much to celebrate in this bicentennial year, we still have much more to do. For despite all these gains, there are still too many Hoosiers struggling to make ends meet. So to keep Indiana growing, I think we should focus on the challenges before us to strengthen our economy, support our schools, improve our roads, and better the health of Hoosiers. For a growing economy, we have to keep taxes low, and we have to invest in infrastructure. Now, while the condition of our roads and bridges ranks above the national average, I propose that we make $1 billion available to improve state roads and bridges in the next 4 years, and let's follow the lead of Senator Long and Hirschman to provide another $400 million in local funding for roads. Now there's a lot of ways to pay for infrastructure, and I expect we're going to have a healthy debate. But here's my view. I think when you got money in the bank and you got the best credit rating in America, the last place you should look to pay for roads and bridges is the wallets and the pocketbooks of hard-working Hoosiers. Let's invest in our roads, let's maintain the crossroads of America, and let's do it without raising taxes. But infrastructure is more than roads. Indiana's ports have also been a spectacular catalyst for job growth. That's why I'm announcing today that I've called on the ports of Indiana to vigorously explore the building of a fourth port in the far southeastern part of our state to unleash enormous economic to come. Because we really do need to invest in regional growth. Our Regional Cities Initiative was designed to do just that, and it's really been a remarkable success. With our state's investment, we're actually leveraging more than $2 billion in public and private investment that will already support 96 projects in 3 regions across the state. These include revitalizing the riverfront in Fort Wayne, redeveloping the Studebaker Plan in South Bend, and residential development in Evansville City Center. I want to commend and congratulate each and every region that participated in our first Regional Cities Initiative program. I want to encourage all of you. Let's fully fund our Regional Cities program, and let's get Indiana growing regionally. And for our schools, with all we've done in education in recent years, higher standards and new tests, we've been asking a lot of our teachers, and we all know that it's teachers that make the difference. Teachers like a woman named Jean Russell. She's a literacy specialist at Haverhill Elementary School in Southwest Allen County Schools. She's been an educator for 25 years, but she told me when we chatted that for her, it's just all about being a servant to the students. Well, she's all those things. She's also the 2016 Indiana Teacher of the Year, and I am honored to have Jean with us tonight. Thank you, Jean, for your great service and for the service of all of the teachers of Indiana. So this year, let's find ways to make teaching more attractive and do our part to encourage more Hoosiers to pursue careers in education. You know, that's why I'm so enthusiastic about Speaker Bosma's Next Generation Scholarship Plan. It would cover up to $7,500 per year in tuition for students who are in the top 20% of their class and commit to teaching in the Hoosier State for at least 5 years. And accountability is important, but testing must be reliable, and the results must be fairly applied. So let's take a step back from ISTEP and see how we can improve on the tests that we use to measure our kids in our schools every year. Let's also take action to ensure that our teachers and schools are treated fairly with the results of the latest ISTEP test. Now, I'm very pleased that leaders in both parties in this chamber and in the Department of Education have been working with our administration since this fall to do just that. And I want to promise each and every one of you, especially our teachers, we will make sure the 2015 test scores fairly reflect the performance of our schools and will not affect teacher bonuses or compensation. You have my word on that. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we must support new ways to confront the growing epidemic of drug abuse and addiction that's tearing apart Hoosier families and driving so much of the senseless violence impacting our cities. We must respond with courage and compassion, just the way Reverend Charles Harrison does each and every day in the streets of our capital city. Reverend Harrison takes a message of peace and reconciliation, sometimes in the aftermath of the most horrific events. Reverend Harrison, we are grateful for your leadership. We admire your courage, and we stand with you to achieve peace and security in the cities of Indiana. God bless you. You know, our state has been leaning into the war on drugs, and we will continue to go hard after those who would profit from selling drugs to our kids. Last year, the Indiana State Police took down drug rings across the state and busted more than 1,500 meth labs. And I have a message for someone that might be watching tonight. If you are selling drugs to our kids, we are coming after you. It's time to get tougher on drug dealers in this state. Let's pass stiffer penalties on those who sell these poisons to our kids, and let's do it this year in this session of the Indiana General Assembly. But here's the thing. We cannot just arrest our way out of this problem. We also have to make sure that families have more options for treatment and somewhere to go when a loved one is caught up in drug addiction. That's why I formed the Governor's Task Force on Enforcement, Treatment, and Prevention. That's why we announced plans for the state's first new mental health hospital in a generation. And that's why last year, with strong and bipartisan support, we enacted 2 laws that were born in the tragic loss of 2 young Hoosiers. Aaron Sims was described as an athletic, red-headed charmer of a son with a big heart and a big smile. He was a sensitive and promising young man who played football for Lawrence North. He lost his dreams and then he lost his life to a heroin overdose at the age of 20 back in 2013. Jenifer Reynolds was a radiant young woman, an honor roll student, and a member of her high school cheerleading squad. She battled chronic prescription drug and heroin addiction for 13 years after experimenting with pills as a teen. She lost her life to a prescription drug overdose in 2009 at the age of 29. Out of their tragic loss, the mothers of these 2 young Hoosiers worked to change the laws in Indiana that will save lives for years to come with the passage of the Jenifer Act and Aaron's Law that I signed last year. Aaron's Law allows healthcare providers to make an antidote for opiate overdoses available. And the Jenifer Act allows Medicaid to cover inpatient detoxification and provides educational requirements for public officials. Indiana is in debt to these moms, and they're with us today. Would you join me in thanking Sharon Blair and Justin Phillips for their courage, their devotion to the families of Indiana. Ladies, we thank you. God bless you and comfort you. Jobs, the economy, schools, roads, and confronting drug abuse. These are my priorities. But I'm aware there's at least one more issue getting attention in this session of the General Assembly. Namely, whether to extend full civil rights protections to Hoosiers on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And over the past few months, I've studied this issue very carefully. I've listened respectfully to people all across the state, representing all points of view. I've met with Hoosiers, from pastors to LGBT activists, to college presidents to business leaders. Now, while Hoosiers are divided over how or even whether to change our civil rights laws, I think there's two things that we can all agree on. First, Hoosiers don't tolerate discrimination against anybody. And Hoosiers cherish faith and the freedoms enshrined in our Constitution. You know, I was raised in a small town in southern Indiana. But just like most Hoosiers, I was raised on the golden rule that you should do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In fact, our state constitution declares that all people are created equal. And I believe that no one should be harassed or mistreated because of who they are, who they love, or what they believe. We cherish the dignity and worth of all of our citizens. Here in Indiana, we are an open and welcoming state that respects everyone. And anybody who doesn't know that doesn't know Indiana. Hoosiers also cherish faith and the freedom to live out their faith in their daily lives. Whether you worship in a church or a synagogue, a temple or a mosque, religion brings meaning to the daily lives of millions of Hoosiers. And no one should ever fear persecution because of their deeply held religious beliefs. Now, the question before you as the elected representatives of the people of Indiana is whether it is necessary or even possible to reconcile these two values in the law without compromising the freedoms we hold dear. Let's remember, we're a state with a constitution. Our Constitution not only protects the right to worship God according to the dictates of our consciences, but it also says, and I quote, "No law shall in any case control the free exercise and enjoyment of religious opinions, nor interfere with the rights of conscience." Our Supreme Court has actually made it clear that our state constitution protects both belief and practice. So as you go about your work on this and other issues, know that I will always give careful consideration to any bill that you send me. But legislation must be consistent with the Indiana Constitution. I will not support any bill that diminishes the religious freedom of Hoosiers or interferes with the constitutional rights of our citizens to live out their beliefs in worship, service, or work. Our freedoms are too precious to our people, too vital to our well-being, and they've been bought at too high a price for us to do any less. The issues confronting our state are complex, but I believe if we will hew to our roots, stand firm on the freedoms bequeathed to us by our founders, if we'll confront the challenges before us with Hoosier common sense and craft Indiana solutions to improve the lives of Hoosiers, we will move forward together. We will find new ways to live and prosper together as neighbors and friends, because that's what Hoosiers always do. We solve problems, and then we unite. That's how we became the heart of the heartland to begin with. But for all our successes and all our challenges, I truly believe our best days are still ahead. Because for all the change that's come in these past 2 centuries, as we reflect on all of our history, Indiana's timeless charm remains our greatest asset. For the moonlight is still fair tonight along the Wabash, and the fields still breathe of new-mown hay. The candlelights are still gleaming through the sycamores on the banks of the Wabash, far away. God has blessed Indiana, and I believe He will continue to shine His grace on this great state if we will but keep faith with the vision, the ideals, and the characters of the best people on earth. I know our 3rd century will be the greatest Indiana century yet. Thank you. God bless you for your service, and God bless the great state of Indiana. Let's get to work.